It is silent in here.
AAT Birds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone. Intercepted. The 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown. Not where. Midfield. He's going to go. Deshaun Jackson. He steps up his head and falls forward. He fumbles the football and the Eagles have it. It's gone. And the Eagles win.
It's all birds. All the time.
And this is the AAT Birds Weekly Report. The Eagles are 8-1. We're going to talk about the Eagles' win against division rival Dallas Cowboys, a much-needed win because things would be totally different if we would have had the other way around, which we kind of thought possibly could have happened. But hey, we're joined as always by Chip at Chip for the Birds and a special guest, Clay Harbor, who, as you guys know, he does with the Inside the Birds post-game show. He does some breakdown with them. He does Inside the Tape with Greg Cosell. He's all over the place, giving a lot of great insight. We are very happy to have him on for the second time. Not talking about Eagles-Bears this time. It's talking actually about the Philadelphia Eagles. Thanks for joining us, Clay.
Appreciate you guys having me on. Glad to be with you today to talk some birds, baby. Fly, Eagles, fly, 8-1. It's a good time to be an Eagles fan.
I mean, and it's Johnny, you left out the most important thing when you're talking about Clay. It's that he is a modern miracle that he is still able to get out of bed in the morning at 36 years old. Because we discussed that over 30 in the green room, we discussed it over 30. Apparently it's shocking that we're all still alive. So we know that we're in the market for a tight end now. Clay has some thoughts about what he needs to put on tape for Jeffrey Lurie to possibly be signed in the bye week. But just, Clay, I mean, let's just pick it up right with, we were talking about how this team is the best team in football by record, yet by all prognosticators and people who get paid a lot more than we do to talk about this stuff, this team is not competitive. They're not complete. What is it that is holding this team back in the eyes of the national media?
You know, it's funny because what matters the most, the statistic, you got all these stat gurus, and, you know, I think there's a place for statistics. I love looking at stats and PFF grades, and even though I take those with a grain of salt, I like watching the tape myself, you know, with my experience, because who knows who's really doing those grades? Is the same person doing every grade? Whatever, where I'm getting on a tangent already. But what matters is, do you win football games? Who's winning the most football games? It's not that hard. The Eagles have won 8. Nobody else has won 8. They've lost 1 game, and honestly, that was a pretty fluky loss. I hate calling fluky loss, but I mean, come on, watch that film and tell me that that was the better team in that game. It wasn't.
It was a look-ahead game. We said it since it was. They were looking ahead of the Dolphins. That's it. This team should be undefeated.
Absolutely, I think they should be undefeated. But some people are putting the Dolphins ahead of the Eagles. They beat the Dolphins. Some people are still putting the Cowboys ahead of the Eagles because they outgained them in yards. Since when does yards mean you're better than someone? It's wins and losses. Who made the plays when it counted? Who scored the touchdowns? Who stopped the other team from scoring the touchdowns? The Eagles. And they've done this for 2 years now. That's the thing that gets me. This isn't their first year of, you know, doing something, okay, a flash in the pan team. No. Look at last season. Obviously, the DNA is a little different with Hurts banged up. You don't see the zone read as much. You don't see the quarterback runs as much. But Hurts is a guy, it's like a pitcher. You know, you're pitching against the Phillies. You have 3 good pitches. Most pitchers, if you take away one of their best pitches, they're not going to be able to win. They're not going to be able to strike. Hurts, you took away one of his best pitches. His zone read, his quarterback runs, his scrambling, and he is still getting the job done from inside the pocket. This team just knows how to win. And I think this disrespect is something that fuels them. They like it. They welcome it. They say, keep putting us down there in the power rankings. This team, we have more wins. And keep doing that. Keep putting us as, you know, the ESPN analytics say we're not going to win the next 2 games against the Chiefs, against the Bills. Okay, keep saying that. We have the best record in football, and then let's play. Let's see what happens on Sunday.
And I think the one thing when you look at Jalen Hurts and what he has done and what this offense has done this season, if you go by the numbers and take a look at the numbers, he's on pace for over 4,300 passing yards, 28 passing touchdowns, 13 rushing touchdowns. No quarterback in NFL history has ever done that. Ever done that.
Yeah.
So he's doing things that nobody has ever done. Not Cam Newton, not Michael Vick, not Lamar Jackson. None of these, Patrick Mahomes, none of these guys have done that. To be able to do what he does. And of course, no matter what it is, when you look at this game this past weekend, a lot of people want to bring up the referees, and it was both sides. It's not one-sided. It was both sides. And that's the one thing that it's just, Dallas Cowboys had so many opportunities, and they literally shit the bed. And that's the Eagles' fault that they couldn't, punch it in. Sorry, that's not the Eagles' fault. And to me, really looking at it, in the one play that when Dallas tried their own version of the quarterback sneak or whatever it may be, of course, the penalty with Kevin Byard and Jake Ferguson kind of got overplayed, and you saw that, and that's all they went to. To me, I thought they didn't really look at a spot. They just said first down right away. And then I know they challenged it, but to me, that was one thing that kind of got overshadowed. But when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles and the missed calls that they had on their end, Jalen Hurts getting hit in the knee from Lawrence, that's a penalty. You can't hit a quarterback low. It's funny how stuff like that. And then later in the game, Hassan Reddick should have came up, shouldn't have given that little love push, love tap, to get a penalty. But, just looking at this game as a whole, the Eagles came out on top. They were able to do enough. You thought maybe in the fourth quarter with 3 drives, they had no first downs. They weren't able to move the ball. 3rd and 3, they do a deep pass to AJ Brown, certain things that they could have done better. But all in all, with the way that they played, hey, it's a divisional matchup. No matter what divisional game. Now, maybe the Giants are a little different because they literally have no quarterback. I don't know. Danny DeVito is going to be the quarterback. Tommy DeVito, whatever it may be. But to me, I just think the way the Philadelphia Eagles played is their brand of football, and all the pundits and everybody need to just realize, look, they're getting wins. That's what it's about. It's about stacking wins because at the end of the year, you want to be the last one there to raise that trophy.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're trending towards. And I think this bye week is at a good time. I think it's a perfect time because obviously you have some injuries. You have some people banged up. I think you get Roby back and put him into the slot. I'm not saying he's going to be Avonte Maddox. I'm not saying he's going to be some crazy lockdown slot defender, but he's a guy that's done it before. That's his specialty. He is a slot cornerback. And ad nauseum, everybody's talking about the slot. I think you get Roby back as a guy that's played it before. First, you got Sidney Brown at the end of the game, guarding CeeDee Lamb one-on-one in the slot. Yeah. It's not going to happen. And I mean, you should just give him the ball there, that rub route that CD took down. Obviously, the Eagles ended up coming out okay that drive with you had the penalty on Dallas, and then you had the sack from Sweat. But, overall, like you said, there were some penalties on the – you look at the penalty they got Dallas all the way down the field. James Bradbury. I mean, that's what, like a 50, 40-yard penalty right there? If Bradbury turns around and doesn't interfere, the game's over a while before this even happens, okay? So I just watched the tape, me and Greg Cosell for our Inside the Tape show, and to me, the penalties was a non-factor. Both teams got calls. You can throw it out the window. And yes, the Cowboys had a lot of yards in the slot, but the Eagles made stops when they needed to,
right? And
they made plays when they needed to. And you could talk about everything else that you got going on with the passing yards, the total yard. I don't care. To me, in that game, people say, "Oh, the Cowboys dominated the Eagles." No, the Eagles won that game. When I'm watching it, I'm still thinking. I rewatch the tape. I still think the Eagles are the better team, and I'm not being biased. Saying they're the better team. The better team won that game. They get to play them again in Dallas. Obviously, it's a difference with home field advantage. It's always a little bit harder. You get the silent count out there. You're going to have a new tight end. If Goddard's not going to be out there, it's always hard with silent count on the edge of the line. Like, who knows what happens when we play him again. But this last game, the Eagles were the better team on the field. And obviously, you look at the history of this team. Nick Sirianni last season had them playing well at the end of the year, and I think they're going to be in the same trajectory coming off this bye week for this last haul and take it into the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think the idea that you just brought up, which is that you're going to be having this trajectory of playing better as the season goes on. You look at some of the teams that are, again, ranked above the Eagles according to ESPN, like the Dolphins. The Dolphins have had an offensively incredible year. They hung 70 on a Broncos team and then went out and lost the next game. And then that Broncos team ended up beating the Chiefs. So we know it's tough to win games in the NFL, but good teams find ways to win. And the Dallas Cowboys find ways to lose football games. It's kind of their MO. It's been their MO. So what is it in your mind as a former player, somebody who analyzes the game pretty intently, what is it that the Eagles need to change, to fix, to clean up in order to play a complete game in the eyes of these prognosticators, in the eyes of these people who are still down on the Eagles?
Well, what I think is going to help is when Jalen, you hope you get this time off here, you get this bye week, Jalen gets some of his mobility back. Mm-hmm. Because you've seen the running game slump the last few weeks, and I think Tyler Steen had an up and down game. He held his own, going from tackle to guard. That's very impressive. But you get Cam Jorgens back, hopefully.
Yeah.
Start being able to use a little bit of zone. I'm not saying you zone read people to death like you did last year, but you start being able to use some of that zone read. Jalen Hurts was by far the best quarterback in the league at running zone read. Zone reads, people think it's this college play. No, if you have a quarterback that can run zone read, it's hard to stop because you're picking up a defender. You're picking up an extra blocker. You're pulling, if they're not sending an extra defender outside with the quarterback, if they're not allotting a defender to the quarterback with Jalen Hurts when he's full speed, you're in trouble. To me, that's the running game. Figure out the zone read, get a couple quarterback runs in there where you're picking up an extra blocker. You're adding on an extra blocker because obviously the running back's not running the ball. And then you use Hurts' legs with the zone read. Running game fixed. Get Cam Jorgens back in there. He's been having a heck of a year before he got hurt. Running game fixed. Okay, and then obviously, we've seen what AJ and Devontae have been able to do. You get them moving with the run game. And then obviously last year, the secondary was a little bit better. We saw Bradbury take a step back. He seems like he's maybe a step slow. And at that cornerback position, if you lose a half step, it matters so much. And when a guy wasn't always that fast, it's tough for him to play at that same level. If you do lose a step and Slay maybe lose a half a step, still playing at a high level, still love Slay, and then you lose a slot defender like Avonte Maddox, you're going to have some issues there. And I still love this defensive line. They're not on obviously last year's pace, but Hassan Reddick, 7.5 sacks, Josh Sweat, 6.5 sacks. I think Jalen Carter inside, he only got 2.5 sacks, but this guy's been a monster in the middle. So I think once this secondary starts improving, once you get this run game back, then the Eagles are doing all this without having full scope of what they can do, without seeing the full scope. My office keeps light, so it's one of those motion sensors at night. It shuts down early.
You apparently have to talk bigger with your hands tonight.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to a lot, But once they get all that taken care of, they're going to be even better. But they're still the best team in the league without that. That's
right.
Why it should be scary for the rest of the league.
Yeah, and I think what you brought up too, and one I want to get watching the tape and what you do, like when you look at the secondary, Byard second week, the communication aspect of the secondary and the defense, and you have a new guy in there to be able, and Reed was out for a number of weeks, and the safety tandems weren't always there. And of course, Justin Evans is on IR. Hopefully you can get him back as well, because he can come down and play slot. He can play safety. Like you said, Bradley Roby coming back, being able to get more of a cohesion in that secondary and these guys playing together, getting familiar with each other to be able to rely on each other, I think is really key. What have you kind of seen with the secondary play in terms of the communication aspect? Is it something that playing more, all the guys being healthy, playing together will help out at that?
Yeah, and I think you've got a number of guys that don't play slot corner. And people are like, oh, if you're a cornerback, you're a safety, you should be able to. No, dude, you can't say, hey, AJ Brown's here, we're going to move Dallas Goedert out to wide receiver, and now Dallas Goedert's going to be number one wide receiver because he's a good tight end. No, it's a different position. Yeah, he's still catching footballs, but it's a completely different matchup. It's a different position. He's not going to be a good receiver. He's a tight end for a reason. So you can't move these guys that aren't slot defenders into the slot. It's something you haven't do. It's a different position. It's not the same. Get Bradley Roby back. He's going to know how to make switches. You see these teams. You see when you watch a Cowboys game, you see how many motions and bunch sets and stuff they use. Like I said, you're on that last drive. You have CeeDee Lamb. He motions first to get the short motion because he makes sure that it's man-to-man. Okay, it's man-to-man. Now they got a rub route. And that rub route, Brown has to run under that and follow Lamb, and he tries to play over the top, and Lamb's wide open. Mm-hmm. And you see a bunch of stuff like that happen. You watch Eli Ricks. I mean, there's a number of guys that were victimized, and it's because they're not used to the position. So for me, it's like, bro, back when Chip Kelly was a coach, first thing he did was try to move me to defense, linebacker. I go out there, I start playing linebacker in practice. I'm pass rushing Lane Johnson and Jason Peters. Jason Peters. I'm trying to do pass rush moves on those guys. First off, like, no, this ain't gonna happen. All right, so they move me back to tight end, and like, okay, we love you because you're fast, you got athleticism. We're gonna move you out to wide receiver. Like, okay, at least I'm not on defense. I'm trying to play wide receiver. I was terrible. It's so much different out there. It's a different place. It's different technique. It's you have to learn this whole new position. And I eventually started getting a little bit better, but it's just not what I was used to. These guys, Sidney Brown is not a slot defender. Eli Ricks is an outside. Yeah. These guys don't play there. They're not going to be able to do this in the middle of the season. Unfortunately, Avonte Maddox got hurt, and he's out for the year. But I think when Roby gets back, he'll be better at that. It's just something that you can talk about. You can try to make a plan here or there. There's only so many defenses you can run. There's nothing that has not been seen before. And if you run the right routes, you have empty sets like the Cowboys were doing, 4 wide sets, and you use motion, you're going to end up with these guys on CeeDee Lamb. And you did see at the end of the game, they started putting Slay. You started seeing Slay, who usually stays on his side, travel to the other side to match up with Lamb. You saw Slay playing on the inside a little bit, but that's not even where he plays. So overall, once you get the actual slot defender back, I think it will improve.
And I think even on top of that, in that fourth quarter, there was a couple of plays where Bradbury and Slay were both not on the field. So you're elevating, your third, fourth, and fifth corners to starting outside corner. I mean, it was a mess. Injuries pile up. And when we're talking about injuries, Dallas Goedert's going to miss some time. And you just mentioned it. A lot of these people with uneducated football opinions are saying, well, just move Julio Jones to tight end. Please tell me why this is not going to work. And don't tell me. Tell the people.
Well, first off, if Julio Jones tried to play tight end, he'd get snapped in half by a 280-pound defensive end. Mm-hmm. Firstly. Secondly, your release moves, you have to release a defensive end, then you got to release a linebacker. Now you're in the muck. I think it's something you're not used to. You're out here, you see the guy in front of you, that's the guy you're releasing on. You can't just move a receiver to tight end and expect him. I played wide receiver in college. I went down to tight end. I wasn't great right away. I mean, that stuff takes time. First off, you got to be able to block. If you're a tight end, if you move a wide receiver to tight end and you think, oh, I'll just put him there and use him for offense and for route running, that's not going to work because that is it's called a tendency. If you try to run the ball with Julio Jones attached to tight, you're going to get Swift murder. Penny, if he's in there, probably not. He had a couple rushes last week. He came out and started the second half. What was that? But you're getting Swift murdered. You're getting Gainwell murdered. Like, you can't run the ball with a wide receiver in there. You want to move him in for just pass plays? Still, you're attached to the line of scrimmage. If you're playing tight end, you can get bumped so easy if they want to take a D end to just like you chip defensive ends. Defensive end chip some of the best. Rob Gronkowski used to get chipped. It's not something that's uncommon. If you have a receiver playing tight end that is getting the ball, that's why you see Travis Kelce playing so much slot, moving in and out. The motions opens things up, but you can't move wide receiver to tight end. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. That's why I wanted again.
Oh yeah, I know.
It's the bye week, so you see all these things that come out, and you hear all these solutions, and everybody's a coach, but it's just not that easy. And I think that one of the things that I really enjoy the most about this Eagles team is, and again, I'm obviously an outsider. Johnny's an outsider. Clay, you've been in NFL locker rooms. you look at some of these locker rooms and there's still a lot of the me mentality behind a lot of these players, which is, well, I'm not getting the ball, so trade me. Or I'm not going to get that big contract, so trade me. This Eagles team, it doesn't seem to be that way. Again, outsider perspective, it seems to be the good of the team mentality. So what, again, outsider coming in, what is it about this team and the way that this locker room is being run that makes it such a team first mentality in Philadelphia?
I think it starts with Sirianni and the culture he's built over there. And going to training camp, I was on field for 3 training camp practices this offseason, and being able to see the way these guys work, first of all, it's not typical. It's not typical. Usually you'll have guys laughing, joking around. You're all buddy with your friends on the field, and then, when you'll go out there and you'll play, yeah, you'll have some solid periods. But from the time of routes on air, watching anyone from A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard, Hurts, everyone, it was just all business. I'm like, these guys are locked in. They're loaded, they're ready to go. Practice wasn't long. Sirianni got in and out of there. But these guys, when they were on that field, they were focused. And I think that all starts with Sirianni, the culture he's built. He's going to take care of you, but you got to take care of him too. You got to know your stuff. You got to be all business when you're on the field. And then it goes down to Jalen Hurts. There's some quarterbacks, like in Chicago, I love Justin Fields, but like he's a guy you'll see out in the city. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't go out and party or anything, but like Deshaun Watson, I'm in Miami for a bachelor party this year. Who do I see in Miami at a freaking club when I was on a bachelor party? Deshaun Watson. First of all,
we're at a massage parlor.
Would you want to be here with some strippers after all the stuff that went down? You signed this huge contract? No. Jalen Hurts, this dude is all football. When I say all football, Jalen Hurts is all football. He is 100%, and it's hard to beat a guy like that. A guy that's not being distracted from these outside things, not worried about the going out, the women, how I look. No, he is a football player.
He would sleep in Novacare if he could, wouldn't he?
Yeah. That attitude, it goes to the rest of these guys. And when you have a leader of your team that does that, that's special. And that's why I'm saying I'm never going to vote against Hurts, pick against Hurts, just because I know how much time and effort, and I know it's cliche. He works hard. Everybody works hard. Not everybody is working hard 100% of the time. Not everybody is 100% football. I worked my tail off first guy league, but I was a guy that would have fun, hang out, whatever, a little bit after. Brent Selleck, work hard in the locker room. That guy's out half the time. Okay, Jalen Hurts, 100% football all the time.
Yeah, and then one thing, watching the game on Sunday, of course, you see when there's something happens, a lot of quarterbacks do. Mahomes did too. They get really animated. You really never see that from Jalen. He never gets animated, yelling at the refs. He just always calm, cool, just that look, and that's about it.
Love that. That's what I want my quarterback to be. This rock, this guy that's immovable. Something good. Treat both imposters the same. The imposter of success and the imposter of failure. They're two imposters. You're just focused on the process of the doing. You don't worry about the result. And he is a process-oriented guy that focuses on the process and trusts everything that comes with that process is going to be success that follows. And he does that, and he believes it. He doesn't get affected by all the outside noise. That's why I think he's been able to have so much success in this league.
Yeah, and I talked about before we started, I want to bring this up. I'm going to share it. Chris Sims had put out a tweet about, this whole, how he reconcile this. He wouldn't be granted a catch until the ball survives the ground, until he survives the ground. So why is he ruled down once the knee hits ball short of the goal line before he completes the act? Loophole. Of course, referring to the Luke Schoonmaker, short of the goal line, as you see, and saying that you should be able to survive the catch. Go ahead, Clay. I know you did mention to talk about this. If you
survive the catch, you're awarded the catch, but you are down where your knee hits the ground and you have possession of the football. So, I mean, to me, I don't think it's a loophole. Some people think because it could be an incomplete pass if you don't hold on to it through the ground, that has nothing to do with where you're actually down at. It just has something to do with if you actually catch the football, if that makes any sense. You're down, you hold on to this thing, you're down where you're contacting your knees down. That's it. That's football. Okay? But to make sure that it is a catch and you are down right there, you got to make sure you hold on to the ball through the ground. It doesn't matter where you are. You could catch the ball and you're down on the knee and bounce. If you don't hold on through the ground, I mean, that's the rule. I think he's trying to make something that up there just to get some. He got some good views on that thing. I can't see the number, but I'm sure it's pretty good. So
yeah, 8.7 million.
Wow. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's not that difficult.
And speaking about Chris Sims specifically, I mean,
well, he's a Giants fan, so he's a little mad.
Right, and that was kind of my point. I mean, obviously, you know,
like a top quarterback. I can't remember.
Yeah, so it was Chris Sims doing the top quarterback thing, and he buries Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
It is him speaking outwardly against the brotherly shove. It is him now, like, obviously, you have some of your shock jocks, you know, your Skip Baylesses, those guys, like the. But to have somebody associated with like Sunday Night Football pushing such a strong, have you seen anything like that from a national broadcast?
Well, he's an Eagles hater. First of all, the tush push. Here's what it should be banned if the Eagles were the only team that could use it.
Correct.
Every team in the league can use the same.
Everyone.
thing.
Yeah.
Do it. Nobody's telling you not to do it. Everybody, if you want to do it, do it. Don't be mad at us because we perfected it. It's like saying you ran a specific route because one team got really good at it. They can't use it.
Yeah, it's to me, it's the equivalent of saying, you know what? Peyton Manning is a really great quarterback who can throw the ball with accuracy, and especially he's so great at audibles, but no one else can read a line like him, so no one should be allowed to audible. Tom Brady's really good within the 2 minutes. So since nobody else can do what Tom Brady does, no other team should be allowed to run a 2-minute offense. That to me is what this sounds like.
Absolutely. Everybody has the opportunity to run that play. Run it. Run it. You hate playing against it, run it.
And the problem with it is, of course, you see teams running it not being able to be successful.
They can't be successful at it.
But
they don't have Jeff Stoutland.
Well, you don't have Jalen Hurts.
And they don't have Jalen Hurts, who squats 600 pounds.
My thing on it, too, is you look at it, and they're now bringing up the injury aspect. I haven't seen anyone get injured. And you tell me this, a running back getting the ball, going to the line of scrimmage, hitting a linebacker head on, you tell me that doesn't cause something a little more than just guys that are really right up against each other, just pushing each other? Like, they get to this point of this injury aspect when there isn't really any scientific evidence to show that people are getting injured on this play. Now, the Giants, of course, had a couple guys get hurt because they don't know what they're doing, and that's just a whole nother story. But
and Johnny, and even more so with that, you know, Clay, you played in MetLife. Yeah. So if the NFL is really as concerned about injuries, wouldn't they burn that place to the ground because of the turf?
Yeah, turf is garbage, man. I'll be honest. You come out of there, you're wearing your normal 1-inch cleats. You're going to go back in and put those 2-inch bad boys in because, I mean, that turf is terrible. That ground is awful. And just because the Giants probably had some injuries and wanted to just be able to say that, it
was because of this.
Yeah. So they would get the thing banned. Knowing Dable. Dable was my tight end coach when I was with the Patriots for a while. Awesome guy. I love him, but he would do some stuff like that. That kind of guy.
All right. So I want to bring up the injury. We heard today that Nakobe Dean has a Lis Frank sprain. Yeah. There's going to be more consulting with the doctor to see how long, whether it's a couple of weeks, whether it's a couple of months. Of course, Lis Frank can be something that is, I guess, not very friendly for you. But apparently there was also something. Rob Motti came out and talked about cleats. Apparently the cleats he used last year when he played in college were discontinued. So he's been using a different footwear. And I don't know if that's been caused. He's had 2 foot injuries this year. And I guess he's going to be going back to that because I guess his university has some old footwear still left over. I thought that was a little interesting. But
that's real.
Of course,
stuff.
He's going to be out. So now you – what?
That's real stuff, dude. I had a discontinued pair of cleats that I used to wear. I mean, guys fall in love. It sounds so stupid when you're from the outside looking in, but I don't know if it causes the injury, but in our heads, it's something we're comfortable with.
It's like the shoulder pad thing with Leonard Fournette. Where's the LSU shoulder pads?
There was
it's Michael Jordan and his sneakers in Space Jam. Let's get it right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's real, man, at least in our mind. You get a pair of shoes you're comfortable with, then you want to stay with those. I don't know what's going to cause the injuries, but I was the same way. I only felt comfortable in my one pair of cleats. I still have a pair floating around in my condo today out here. If I ever want to go run some routes or run up some hills with some cleats on, it was the only thing I would ever wear. And as far as Kobe Dean's concerned, I thought he's been playing solid. And early on in the year when he was healthy, I thought he was doing well. But it's a drop-off, but it's not that big of a drop-off when you go from him to Nick Morrow. Nick Morrow is a veteran. He's been around. He's not Nakobe Dean, and obviously Nakobe Dean's still learning. He's young. I think the guy's like 22 years old still. It's wild. He's a young dude. But Nick Morrow is a guy that you're not going to lose because of him. Are you going to win because of him? You hear that about quarterbacks, but he's not a guy that's going to make any crazy plays. He's not Roquan Smith, Fred Warner, but he's a guy that can handle his own. He always knows he's in the right place. He's not going to make any crazy plays. He's not fantastic at coverage. He's okay. He'll throw his body in there and tag he's going to make any big hits. No, but he'll be there to make some plays. And Zach Cunningham. I think Zach Cunningham's doing a real nice job. I've been very impressed with this guy. This guy's been here for what? He got here in training camp?
At the end of training camp, yeah. Beginning of training camp.
Yeah. So impressed with him. I think, but here's the other problem. I think these two guys will be fine, but they were doing a little bit of rotation. So it might take a hit to some special teams. Obviously, special teams isn't as important as it once was with all the kickoff stuff. And then if one of these guys go down, what's your backup plan from there? At some point, linebacker's a tough position to stay healthy. At some point, you're going to need another guy to step in. When they had the three of them, like, okay, this is a position we're good at. Like tight end was always something that worried me. Dude, if Dallas Goedert goes down, Jack Stoll, I like Jack Stoll, but watching his blocks this year, he's blocking tight end, hasn't even been blocking great. So I don't. Yeah, and then Calcaterra with the concussions, who knows? Albert O hasn't even been active. So
he was finally active this week, and he had to be with Goddard going down. It was lucky he was already active.
Yeah, it's tough. And you look at a guy like Christian Ellis would be the next guy in line, and then you have two guys on the practice squad. Ben Van Sumeren he was called up for specials last week. And then you have Brandon Smith, the former Penn State linebacker, former draft pick of the Carolina Panthers. But again, both those guys are project guys. Those are still young guys who are learning. They're athletic. They have the traits and everything. But the problem with it is they're not ready to step on the field and be a contributor. That's just not where they're at right now. And that's why you have the practice squad. And that's why the practice squad is as big as it is, because you're able to develop some of these players. The other question I have in terms of the defense, and you look at you're talking rotation with the linebackers, the rotation with the defensive line. I feel that Sweat and Reddick are on the field a little bit too much, 84%. That's just a lot, especially when you look at what they like to do, what they have liked to do in recent years. BG only getting about, 15%. And then you have Nolan Smith and Patrick Johnson up this week because Derek Barnett is deactivated and because Barnett's not playing the best this year. Question I have for you is, I saw a report today that Ian Rappaport posted about JPP is ready. He was signed with the practice squad, learn stuff. He played last year with Baltimore. He played 60% of the defensive snaps for the Ravens. Would he be a type of player to be able to rotate in there with BG and Nolan Smith and be able to have a little bit of rotation in this end stretch run getting into the postseason play?
Well, you could bring him to the practice squad and see what kind of juice he still's got. Bring him in a workout practice squad, see what he's got left, and if he doesn't got anything in the tank, then you're not really missing anything. I like Nolan Smith though. Being at training camp, I thought Nolan Smith was talented. Talking to Kelsey and Lane and Fletch and some of my old guys I actually played with, they really like him. They say he's going to be a versatile player, but he needs to get stronger. I think that's what we all saw, is he needs to get stronger, be able to hold that edge, and obviously, strength is huge in the game of football. So I don't know if this year he's going to make a difference, but I think moving forward, Nolan Smith, some people are kind of like forgetting about him, but he's going to be good. He's an athletic player. He's going to be a versatile player. He's going to be a guy that can stand up at linebacker and then move to the edge rush. And they're going to be able to do a lot of different things with him once he's ready. He's just not ready yet. And I think, they're kind of slow playing BG. You get the bye week too, and they know BG doesn't have a leg. But as you get down the stretch in the playoffs, you're going to see BG's plays pick up. I think you're going to see more of him. And then, after that, I don't think they have much right now. So they kind of have to play Hassan Reddick and Sweat. And I think we got to hope that these guys stay healthy and fresh, because outside of them, obviously Fletch has had some nice plays from the inside, and Jalen Carter has done well in the inside there, and even Milton Williams.
And Derek Barnett was a healthy scratch this weekend, correct?
Yeah, what's the deal with Barnett?
I got nothing there. I thought, honestly, I thought that he was going to be traded for some help somewhere else. Obviously, he was not. But for him to be a healthy scratch for Dallas week, something was not clicking there for me.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. And, nobody's really been talking about it either, so I haven't heard much. Just a healthy scratch, whatever you hear, talking to, just the local guys and stuff that you talk to. Nobody's really heard much about why DB hasn't been playing, and obviously maybe just because his play hasn't been great or injuries or whatever. But I would expect to see him more down the stretch if he's healthy.
Right.
Yeah, and it's the Eagles are going to have some, of course, the bye week and everything, so they have time. They're going to have some roster maneuvering because Cam Jurgens is eligible to come off. Whether Goddard and Nakobe go on IR, depending on
Nakobe went on IR.
Well, they said he's going to be going, most likely. There's no roster move yet.
And Goddard, I think, again,
if he's on IR, he misses the Dallas game. He can come back on the Seattle game. But if
outside perspective, that was a dirty hit.
What?
Outside perspective, that was not the cleanest hit I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get what you're saying there. And I don't know, it's tough to say if something.
It's such a quick game, I know.
Yeah, but I broke my ankle once, and it's basically broken by a guy. I ended the game. It was literally week 17, Jacksonville. We were terrible that year, pretty much every year. Jacksonville before 2 years, but we were terrible. And this guy literally broke my leg when I was wrapped up. He snapped. I found this dude on Facebook, and I wrote him a long ass letter talking about an email. It's like, yo, we all play here to support our families. I'm going to be a free agent, and ended up going in free agency, signed a decent deal, but could have been better because I was coming off of ankle surgery. I had a plate, 10 screws, ligaments, the whole 9 yards. This dude broke my and wrote him. He just says, he writes back, "Get well soon!" ! Oh, I fucking hate that guy. But that happens, and he found me when we played him a year later. And we ended up playing him. I was on the field. He's like, yo, I just want to say, that was accidental. I know what it looked like on tape.
Right.
But, honestly, in the heat of the moment, I was just trying to make the play. And I'm like, yo, all right, apology accepted. I didn't know. All you told me was after I write this 2-page thing is get well soon. Okay, rubbed me the wrong way. But I don't want to say that it was dirty or not because, you really don't know. But it did look like it. I'll give you that. It did look like shady that they did that to Dallas.
Yeah, it's again, it's you have that, of course, Jalen getting hit knee, but things like that can be escalated. People look into a lot of things. It was a bang play,
right?
Grabbing
I just think the sideline was right there.
The arm and pushed him, but to grab the arm, then literally just tie it down. To me, it's luckily he didn't shatter his wrist or break a bone to go through the skin, or it's like a MMA move, the arm bar type of thing, to be able to hold him and then take him down like that. So luckily it isn't as bad as I thought when he first went down. When he's holding his arm like that, I thought it was broken wrist or something.
How's a broken forearm in surgery only going to keep you out, you're saying 4 weeks? What is this guy, Wolverine? You broke your forearm, you're having surgery, and you're going to be back in 4 weeks? I've never heard of a surgery like that for an actual fracture. You're going to be back in 4 weeks. I know they've kind of revisited, and now it's 4 to 6. But, man, 4, if you're expecting this guy back in 4 weeks, he's not going to be able to block. Like maybe if you're just trying to throw him a play here or there and just get him in the receiving, but like, dude, like you're not going to be 100% healthy after getting surgery, not being able to do anything for 4 weeks. I don't know.
It's going to be interesting the way they dial this up now, because you're going to have Jack Stoll. I don't know with Calcaterra what his prognosis is. He has another week here, so hopefully he gets a little bit better. But Alberto, you did trade for him from Denver.
Time to see him.
Time to see possibly what he can give you in the passing game, what he can do to, do some stuff in the passing game, because Jack Stoll really, as we said, is a blocking tight end, but it really hasn't been blocking the best this year. So we'll see. The Eagles have a tough game come next Monday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not sure how many times we're going to hear about Taylor Swift. I'm hoping we don't hear it at all.
All right. So wait,
here we go.
I gotta ask. Because, again, you've done both sides of this here. So, obviously, you've done the professional football player and then went on to,
bring this up.
I wasn't going to, but you did such a nice job.
The Bachelor is nothing near what these guys are doing.
Right. But how do you go about having, like, Travis Kelce is getting a whole new fan base because of his connection to Taylor Swift. And they're like, oh, and he's also a football player. So same kind of thing happens to you where, like, you get a fan base from The Bachelor, but you're like, but I'm also a football player. Like, how do you balance that?
For me, it was wild, right? I'm like, yo, I've played in the league for 8 years. I've been around guys that are actually, like superstars. You walk into a bar or a restaurant, and like nobody knows who these guys are except for like the guys that are football fans. Like, say you're out with your friends and you go to a bar. Like, I'm here with big-time football players, and I'm getting approached because I was on the Bachelorette, a TV show that literally anybody could go on, that takes not 1 ounce of talent or work ethic at all. And they're coming, oh, my, you're that guy from The Bachelor. Oh, yeah, I did play a little bit, 9 years of professional football. It's wild. These people, you walk down the street, you're the guy from The Bachelor. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. I spent my whole life playing football, working my ass off to get to the NFL, to play in the NFL, to stay in the NFL. Not 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons. These are all, you have to work for this. Then it's like you're the guy from The Bachelor. Quick story. I was at the NFL awards. What do they call those? The award where they give the player of the year and stuff?
Oh, the NFL honors?
NFL honors. And I was doing a brand deal with Head and Shoulders. Like, so me and Tyler Cameron, I don't know if you guys know Tyler Cameron, and you probably don't because you're men, and you're not big into reality TV. But Tyler Cameron is like the guy from The Bachelor. Like, girls literally fall over when they see this guy. And in NFL honors, you literally have this was Miami Super Bowl and the Chiefs won. You got Lamar Jackson over here, DeAndre Hopkins in his heyday, Matt Stafford. You got all these guys in the room, and I'm like, wow, man, these are even some guys like I've met them, but like this is like unbelievable. Me and Tyler walk in, and not me, it's Tyler, but a line of people, all these women rush Tyler, and he's like, yeah, bro, he's like, I had $600 in my bank account before I went on The Bachelor, and these people are coming up to me, and that's Lamar Jackson. Like, they're incredibly going wild because Tyler Cameron's in the room, a guy that was on a reality TV show when these big-time celebrity football players are there. So it's a whole new demographic. If you go somewhere where there's going to be women, they will know you from The Bachelor. Now, for Travis Kelce's sake, I'm sure sometimes he'd walk into – people don't know him unless you're a guy. Now, everybody knows he is, and it's just a completely different thing.
Yeah, it was funny when because my wife, she watches all that. So, when I said, oh, yeah, I have Clay Harbor coming on. Oh, yeah, I remember it. And of course, it's not from football. But because I remember when you were on it, because she always watched it in the living room, and I was always either writing notes down, doing something, whatever. And she's like, oh, yeah, the football player's on. I think he played with the Eagles, I think. And I'm like, oh, really? So I'm watching. I'm like, oh, that's Clay Harbor. He played tight end. I remember, and I'm naming all that stuff. And she looks at me and she goes, can you be quiet? I'm trying to watch the show. I said,
okay, they're going, oh, yeah, he went to Missouri State and he was on Team 9 of the XFL. And she's like,
I remember his first touchdown catch. I remember in the 2000, blah, 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 all this. Yeah.
You don't remember. What was my first touchdown then? I'll be shocked if you get this. It was something different than usual. I'll
Well,
just say that much.
I feel like you threw one.
It was on a Tuesday night football game.
yeah, against the Minnesota Vikings, Joe Webb.
Joe
beat the
Webb
Eagles.
game. Yeah,
Jesus
Michael
Christ.
Vick. I hate that game still.
And
And I just want to
also
point out that
remember-
now that's going to be the video on AAT Birds tomorrow, just because I guarantee you Johnny's got clips for days.
Pull that one up. My first touchdown. Michael Vick, Clay Harbor, Eagles, Vikings,
Yeah.
Tuesday night game. Got canceled for a snowstorm that never came.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was not happy. I'm like, it's not even snowing. Why is this game? And of course, Joe Webb, Antoine Winfield.
Yeah,
That's
we
all I-
should have won that game. That's some BS. And we ended up losing in the first round of the playoffs to the Packers. We ended up going to the Super Bowl. That whole, I felt like we had a team of destiny that year with how Vic came back, and that was such a cool year. Miracle in the Meadowlands Part 2, just being on the field for that. Watching Deshaun run that freaking punt return back. It's just, what is going on? That locker room after the Miracle in the Meadowlands. Really thought we were a team of destiny, man. And I wish we could have had that one back.
You really look at that, and before we do our, we do Ulecka Locks, we'll pick something that we think is going to happen week 10 before we head out. I want to bring up and ask you about the 2010 team, because you look at the Eagles back in 2008 and 2009 and everything, it was almost the end of the era of the early Eagles 2000s, with McNabb leaving, Trey Thomas, Brian Dawkins, John Runyon, all these guys, these legends are gone. And then you look in 2010, the offense is prolific. You have Deshaun and Macklin, and you have Jason Avant, and you have Brent Selleck, and you have LaShawn McCoy, Michael Vick. You have all these players.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, this is the second route. And the way I always say with that team and that offense, and you go and look at Patrick Mahomes and when they had Tyreek Hill and, all the guys that they had, and you looked at that offense, I always envisioned thinking to myself, Andy knew, but it just seemed like his time just ran out. Injuries hit him in 2011 and 2012, and they just, you were there, struggled and everything. And it just like his time ran out, and he went over to Kansas City and he built something there and turned it into a power that we still see today.
Yeah, so happy for him.
Like,
Yeah, same.
How were those team, that 2010 team, those guys playing with that amount of speed on offense, and like how great was seeing that from first person?
This is a special year, man. But for me, I was just so like, I wish I could go back and I played much better in Jacksonville. I did in Philly. But when you're with the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's just tough to, really get that. And first of all, when you're the worst offense for 3 consecutive years, yardage and points, it's tough to get statistics in that. But if I wish I was playing the level of football that I was playing in Jacksonville, in Philly, where I think I really could have helped the team. But coming out, Missouri State, it was tough for me to make that transition, because it was I don't know, it was just such a change. It was like the guys, like the environment, and I had all the talent, the ability to be such a much better player, but it was just like this change. Like I could pull you guys up articles of Marty Morningwig, like talking about, just doing some very uncommon things. Coach Reed, like, dude, you could be a Pro Bowler if you figure this out and just become more consistent. And for me, I love that team, but I was just like this kid from Missouri State, and I felt like I was playing more not to mess up than I was to make plays, and I got better as my career went on. You wouldn't have lasted, but that team was a special team, man. Just seeing those guys, being in the locker room with those guys, Deshaun, LaShawn, Mac, you got Vic. I mean, that was just a ton of fun, and that was a special year that, I'll always remember that year, man, especially winning the division. And obviously we rested the starters in week 17, I think people are like, oh, you're only 10, we would probably have been 11-5. Solid team, didn't make it to where we wanted to, but still a ton of fun, a lot of great memories.
Yeah, no, it's just something, and you have to look, you played double what a normal NFL career is. So it's definitely, may not have been kind of what you may have hoped for, but, coming from a smaller school to be able to do what you did, and, and what you're doing now, even, it's a testament of, hard work and everything. You do a great job. on Inside the Birds with those guys and everything that you do, and Inside the Tape with Greg Cosell. So, it's awesome to see everything that you're doing. But we're going to get to the last segment and then we'll head off.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's time for the Ulecka Locks of the week. Who's your lock?
So Ulecka Locks basically is like a stone cold lock, something you think is definitely going to happen.
Or if you're like me, something that you think is going to happen and just get wrong every week.
Well, you're the New York Giants of this because you're 2-7 so far this year on your Ulecka Locks. Last week you had Dak throwing
2-7.
Yeah,
2-7. Dak throwing 2 interceptions. Well,
he threw 0. So let's go.
I am 5-4. I am on I believe 2-game winning streak. I had the Vegas Raiders beating the Giants. I guess that's not really.
That was like the easiest lock on the planet.
I don't care. I still got it.
That was like me saying a team that plays their home games at MetLife was going to win the other week when it was the Jets versus the Giants. And you're like, no, you can't have that. Well, maybe they'll tie. And then they almost tied. I could have had it.
Yeah, well, you didn't. But brings it to this week, week 10. There is no Eagles football. So, of course, any game on the slate that we can call or make a prediction. I'm going to start with our guest, Clay. Unless you want us to go first and let you think about it. We could do that.
I'm looking at the games right now, trying to see what I like here as far as spreads are concerned. So I do a betting show. It's called Believe Me with Believe Podcast Network. And on that show, I am 38-28. And this is picking straight spreads. And, my other guy is like, the guy I do it with is like 32-33 or something. So I've been having a lot of success. I'll send you guys the receipts because you probably think I'm BSing, but no, man, I'm 38-28 picking straight spread. So I'm actually pretty good at this. And honestly, I have no system. I just basically pick the games, I think. But the game I like, and I'm not just doing this because I played with them for 4 years, is Jaguars in Jacksonville, right? They are 3-point dogs to the San Francisco 49ers. And the 49ers have lost their last 3 games. People still think because it's Jacksonville versus San Francisco that the 49ers are going to win. But this isn't the same Jaguars team. They have a top 8 defense. They have a top 8 offense. Trevor Lawrence is better than Brock Purdy. I don't even think right now that's not even a question if you look at the last 3 games. I think Doug Peterson, you guys know Doug. Doug's been calling great offense. He has his team in a great trajectory. They're getting pressure now. That was their big problem. Now they're actually pressuring the quarterback. Calvin Ridley's been playing well. Christian Kirk's been playing well. Evan Ingram had 10 catches last week. Travis Etienne is one of the best running backs in football. In my opinion, I'm not saying they're going to win, but with the 3 points, this is going to be a 1 to 2 point game. My lock of the week is the Jaguars covering the spread with the 3 points against the 49ers.
No, that's a good one. Chip, what do you got?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Johnny. Mine's going to be a little bit more off of the field. And at the beginning of the year, I knew that the Patriots were bad.
You're going to take mine, you son of a gun.
I knew that the Patriots were bad. And as the year progressed, I knew that they were bad. And I kind of thought that Belichick was going to get the ability to finish out the year because he's Bill Belichick. I do not think that he comes home from Germany as the head coach of the New England Patriots.
All right. Well,
I think that there is a midseason firing giving Jared.
I don't care if Bill kills the Kraft's daughter. You got to let Bill finish the year.
And and Clay, I agree with you. I think that he has earned the right to finish the season. I just think that there is such a level of expectation there, and the team has looked so horrifically bad. And you know that Gerard Mayo is going to be a head coach somewhere, so it's almost like that trial run. I think the same thing's going to happen. I think Ron Rivera is going to get fired in the next couple of weeks when they lose their next really bad game to UCC, that Eric Bieniemy is going to get his trial run. I just think that the Patriots have been so horrifically bad that Robert Kraft is going to do the unthinkable and get rid of Bill Belichick midseason.
I get where you're coming from.
I hope I'm wrong. This one, I actually want to be wrong.
Yes, if he does that, then I mean, I've just lost faith, man. The times that they've had and experiences they've had, and I wasn't with the Patriots long. I was with the Patriots. I signed with looking back, I should have stayed with the Jaguars. I had several offers, same deal, same-ish deal. And I want to go play with the Patriots. I want to play with Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. That's what I want to do. They go and sign with them. I was just there for the offseason and preseason in 6 games. And just being with those guys, though, that season they ended up going on to win the Super Bowl. They're down 20-3, came back and beat the Falcons. It was just such a wild, actually watching that, just knowing everything I've been through with that group of guys and watching on TV. Bittersweet feeling. But I get what you're saying. It does make sense.
Right.
Bill Belichick.
Man. I hope I'm wrong, Clay.
I mean, it makes sense, but.
Yeah, that's and the one weird thing with them is they traded for J.C. Jackson back, thinking everything would be good. He's not traveling there. He missed curfew. Him and another defender, I believe. So
and that's kind of where my thought process went. Like Andy Reid is still the best coach in Eagles history. I know Peterson won a Super Bowl and Sirianni's on a different trajectory, but Andy Reid's the best coach in Eagles football history, and it was very obvious when he started having his losing seasons that he lost the locker room, right? And once that happens, there was no getting it back. So a move had to be made. And I'm starting to see the same thing happening in New England.
Oh, he's done for sure. Like I definitely see it. But I was like, you got to give him the dignity.
I think you let him finish the season, but at the same time, I think
it's possible.
I think if the Patriots play poorly in Germany, then he will be removed. Because the Patriots have their bye coming up this week, right?
No, their buys. I think their buys after this week.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying. They've got Germany this week, and then they have the bye, right?
I believe so.
So then you give Jared Mayo 2 weeks to become the head coach.
Yeah,
we'll see. I was leaning that way. The way I'm going is I'm going to pick this Thursday game, and I'm going to go a player basically. Tyson Bagent, the quarterback. Yeah, I know, right? I had to do it too. Tyson Bagent, former Shepherd Ram. Kutztown's a lot better than them. So
Kutztown's a lot better. Thank you, sir. Thank you for saying it. Shout out to Craig Reynolds, who was doing a great job in Detroit. Kutztown alum.
Kutztown plays Slippery Rock for the PSAC championship.
Yes, they sure do at Kutztown.
I know that because my boss's kid is the starting linebacker, so I get all the info there. But I think Bagent's going to go 2 touchdowns in a win against the Panthers.
I would argue that, but I mean, it's the Panthers, the only team in a worse position than the Bears.
They're so bad.
So that's possible.
And the only team that's worse than that now is the Giants with Tommy DeVito, or
Syracuse University, by the way.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, that's possible. I could see him Bagent doing that. He's actually not that bad.
He's not terrible.
Picks last week, but I mean, he's actually pretty solid. He gets rid of the ball quick. I know he's a D2 kid, but he's played a lot of football and he doesn't look scared out there at all. And that's what I respect about him. I mean, he comes out swinging,
And hey, I believe the Bears have the Panthers pick too. So really, whatever happens, it's basically benefiting them anyway. Maybe they'll be able to load up. Maybe they'll get the first and second pick.
That's the hope. It's all people in Chicago are talking about right now, man. I live in Chicago, and it's pretty sad that right now it's already mock draft season for the Bears fans. So, guys, cherish what you got out here in Philly.
We love it.
Yes, in Chicago, they're already going through mock drafts and hoping their team loses just to make sure that they get the top picks in the draft. So, just appreciate what you got, and obviously I do as an Eagles fan, but I also cover the Bears, and it's tough out here for these guys in Chicago. It's a lot of negativity flying around, and it's just everybody's just in a bad mood, all these Bears fans, and it's pretty sad.
Yeah. But hey, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I can keep my winning streak to 3 when it comes to the Ulecka Locks.
I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I hope that my losing streak continues. I really do.
Yeah.
Me too, because it makes for great content with you.
Yeah, that's why. That's why I'm hoping.
But like I said, I want to thank Clay again for joining us. If you want to plug yourself, where they can find you, where they can listen to you, anything, go ahead, Clay.
No, you just follow me on Twitter. You'll see what I'm doing on there. Post a lot on Twitter. My iPhone lets me know that screen time.
I hate that number every Sunday morning.
Yeah. But Clay Harbs 82 on Twitter, and I post most of my stuff on there.
Awesome. Like I said, thanks again for joining us. And, no Eagles football this weekend, but there is a lot of good football, some great college football. Hopefully Penn State gets the win over Michigan. But with that, we always end the show with 2 words. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.